Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome to the Cover Crimson post-game show. Alabama, a winner. But that's about it today. I'd love to get on here and talk about how great I feel after this win, but I don't feel great. I feel very concerned about where this football team is right now, the direction of things with this program, and honestly, not real excited about a 27-25 win over South Carolina. And against an opponent that Alabama, again, was a 20-plus point favorite and just didn't look that great. But they do win the game, and, I mean, you can't look past that, right? I mean, after what happened last week against Vanderbilt. But, I mean, I don't know how much further you go with a program that was playing for national championships, and now it feels like, every week it's a battle. And today's game, another one where there just was a lot of issues. So Clint Lamb's going to be on. I'm going to take your calls as well. And you guys call in, get in the comments section. But I'm not real fired up about this win. I mean, I'm glad they didn't lose, but that's about it. And I feel like that this team has a lot of issues right now, a lot of issues. And they're lucky they didn't lose again. They're lucky. Plain and simple. They're lucky that they're not walking off the field right now, having lost to Vandy and then South Carolina in back-to-back games. Yeah, Skyler, exactly. Let me see, put it up here. Yeah, what the fuck? I don't know. I really don't know. Other than when I look at this and I look at what happened today, I'm looking at a team right now that's got a lot of problems. Offensive line, not a good performance. Tackling, not great. Swarm, I didn't see a lot of swarming. Okay, I saw some swarming. It feels a lot like Mike Shula, and he was there today. It wouldn't have been, I'm sure he would have loved to have beaten DeBoer in Alabama, because, I mean, he's still pretty upset about getting fired. Well, he wasn't a good coach. That's why he got fired. He's a good guy. He wasn't a good coach. Yeah, we look like shit. Sorry, that's what he said on the comment. He's exactly right. Exactly right. This was just another game where you watch, and there was nothing dominant about this performance. Dumbass penalties. Some of the penalties, like the roughing the passer stuff where the guys are running at the quarterback and they brush the face mask, to me, feels a lot like BS too. And that's back-to-back weeks where we've had one of those. And you sit there, you're like, hey, what's going on here? So I don't know. Just, I mean, as I sit here and kind of reflect on that game, I feel like this team, either they're not that good or they got a lot of problems. All right, let's go to the phone lines because Clint's not here, and Jim Dunaway wasn't feeling good today. So let's get you guys involved and help out with the show. Who's this and where are you calling from?
What's up, Mick? It's Schaefer from Charlotte once more, brother. How are you?
Schaefer from Charlotte. Thanks for calling in, man. I'm just trying to figure out what are we doing right now? What is this?
Hey! If Damani Jackson goes down, if he kneels that ball in the end zone, is it a safety?
Yeah, wouldn't that have been something? At least he figured out that he needed to run.
Maybe. Hopefully that hip's gonna be okay for Tennessee. But Nick, I mean, I am very, very worried for our chances come Tennessee, man. W today, but a lot of questionable play calls. I did not like our, I think it was in the first half. I think it was 3rd and 18 at our own 45 or so. And we chose to throw a 18-yard out route. When we could have gave it to the running back 6 yards, maybe gave our Lou Rosa a winner kicker a shot to kick a field goal to maybe get up 17-0. But, hey, I'm not a coach, but I'm here to support the Tide and Roll Tide. I'm glad we got the win, but man, I'm real worried about next weekend.
I am too, man. Look, Schaefer, thanks for calling. I'm you know what? I was the one that said, hey, maybe we just weren't enthusiastic against Vandy. Maybe we just didn't bring the right energy. Maybe it was a hangover. It wasn't a hangover. I was wrong. Just going to throw it out there. We just got beat, and we almost got beat again today at home. If this would have been in South Carolina, we'd be talking about another loss. So I'm just really not sure what to think right now, other than we got a lot of problems. And the quarterback that can run is, I mean, how many times did we have this guy trapped in the backfield and not make a play on him? I'm going to bring Clint in. You guys hold on, and I'm going to get to your calls. But I'm Clint. They're just not that good. Maybe they'll get better, but they're just not that good. This isn't Saban's football. And I like DeBoer. Look, I love him. I think he's a good dude. But this isn't the Bama standard. I mean, look, it's embarrassing when I watch ESPN and they're talking about all the shit talk that our guys are doing before the game against Vandy. That ain't us. It's embarrassing that we got a guy kicking footballs and getting penalties, and he doesn't get suspended. We say, okay, and we got people taking up for that behavior. Take that to Miami. That's just not Alabama. I'm sorry. I mean, I've been following this program for 30-some years. That ain't us. I'm glad we won the game, but that's about all I'm seeing right now. They shouldn't have won. Watching that clown act on the onside kick, Clint, I'm sorry. That's not good enough.
It was bad.
Tell me I'm wrong. No, just tell me.
It's bad football.
Clown.
Defensively, just as a fan, you never feel confident. Like when they didn't get that 2-point conversion, you think your initial thought is it's over. And then you immediately think, not with this Alabama team. Not with this team. It very, very much could not be over. And that's exactly, as soon as they get the onside kick, at that point, probably as a fan, and fans tell me if I'm wrong, if you're still in that doghouse with Alabama and South Carolina recovers it and you're immediately like, they're still going to win this game, I believe in them, tell me if I'm wrong. But, I will say, speaking candidly myself, as soon as they got that onside kick, I thought Alabama's going to blow this. It's going to be the second loss to an unranked team in a row, this one at home as a 3-touchdown favorite. And, I was already starting to think, okay, what's this show going to be like? And fortunately, it's kind of like Georgia. They got it done, in the end zone on an interception when they needed to. But Mick, it should never reach this point. And I think this is feeling like there's some mental hurdles here. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, where's the juice squad? Like block somebody. And that also goes for the running backs too. Look, and Milroe didn't have a good game. He didn't look like a Heisman Trophy candidate, but you know what? They also didn't block very good either. This is
crazy.
It's the reality of we're not getting better. We're getting worse. We had the great half against Georgia, and then we're getting worse each half after that. Well, you give them credit for winning, and that matters. It does matter. The rest of it's just been ridiculous.
Well, I think a big problem defensively, there's a lot wrong. I will give Kane Womack credit for this. Against a team that has been so limited throwing the football, especially pressing defenses vertically, stretching you out. They came in with a game plan. We're going to get all three of our off-ball linebackers on the field together. Justin Jefferson started. It was kind of a, depending on how you view, Jahad Campbell, it was more of like a 4-3 or, in some instances 3-4. And a lot has to do with the alignment of the defensive linemen as far as, which it is. But I think a big problem with this. So I'll start with this. My head's spinning here. It's crazy. But so I'll give him credit because you got Justin Jefferson on the field. You're running 4 defensive linemen, true defensive linemen, with 2 bandits, both LT Overton and Jamarian Latham, both starting as your 2 ends. And so it was like a very run-heavy setup against, a South Carolina team. And that was South Carolina specific. There might be offenses in the future where they run some of that. But I'll give Womack credit. He didn't live in the 4-2-5 and say that's going to be our game plan. That you still saw a lot of it. Don't get me wrong. And I think that's fine. Nobody needs to be attacking the scheme as far as the 4-2-5 because, like I said, Nick Saban runs it, Kirby Smart runs it. That's just that's something everybody's going to see nickel defenses, period. But what I will say is a major problem is I think there was such an emphasis on generating turnovers that there has been a lack of emphasis on tackling proper form tackles. And I think that's been a major problem. When you look, guys are trying to strip the ball out, rip it out or whatever. I mean, just go play hard-nosed defense. If you're putting your helmet on that football hard enough and enough as far as, how many times you do it, you're going to generate some turnovers. And so I think right now it's a really bad product defensively. Offensively, I still think they're figuring some things out. And I think Milroe was pressing a little bit where he's trying to carry the team. And, today just wasn't his day. He did not play great football. He had some really, really good moments. He had some good moments late when it really mattered. But today just wasn't his best. It was not his A game. And, I think he probably had to press a little bit.
All right, we're going to get to the calls. We've got a bunch of calls lined up. We're watching for Kalen DeBoer to take the stage. I got to hear what he has to say. So, guys, when you come on, make your point. We got a bunch of people that want to talk, and then Clint and I will kind of get into it and get to the next call as we wait for Coach DeBoer. But thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. And make sure you're part of Cover Crimson, covercrimson.com, right here on the Cover Crimson YouTube channel. All right, let's go to the phones. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Nick, Dr. Stan from L.A. What's going on?
What's up, Doc? Doc, tell me what the hell's going on right now. How can I get these guys better?
Okay, first thing, they school dragged Q Robinson coming off. Whenever we got the face mask call on their quarterback, they absolutely school drugged him. They didn't call that call, and it was wide open. Nobody could have missed that call, and they missed that call. This game is totally different with that call. Secondarily, look, hey, I know it's not quintessential Alabama football, but and the defense lapsed at times, but they manned up actually, and they did not go back in any prevent. They get pressure on that last series and kept pressuring and pressuring and pressuring. He didn't let the dogs off, and they got after him. He threw a pick, and let's just call it like it was. Was that not a beautiful call though to Bernard? Wide open.
I love
in the
that
corner.
play. Yeah, that was the game. I mean, that won the damn game.
See, we nailed them when we needed to. I know it's an ugly win. We need to take this for what it is. It's an ugly win. There's a lot to be done. But imagine what we'd be feeling like right now if they would have pulled that dramatic miracle off again. Okay? So we need to step back from the cliff a little bit and just, Dr. Stan needs his defibrillator. Dr. Stan is going to smoke his victory cigar today. And yes, there's a lot of work to be done. But let's. I'm going to go get my 1926 Padron right now.
Do it.
And we're going to fire it up. And we're gonna go back and look at this because right now it's fresh. I got to go back and watch the film, see what's going on, where and how and who. Hey, it was better than Vanderbilt. We played a lot better than we did against Vanderbilt. So, and let's give them some credit. I mean, their backs are 250, their quarterback's 230. There's the big dudes back there, and like I said, we bend. But we didn't break. It's a Bama win. I'll take it, okay? Yes, there's a lot to be done. It ain't your Saban's football anymore. So we just got to make some adjustments and keep rolling. Roll Tide, baby.
Roll Tide, Doc. Thank you, brother, for calling in and hitting us up. And I'll pass that on to Clint and have that Patron, man. Light that thing up. I need to get in my cigar cabinet, but it won't be for the victory cigar. It'll be to calm me down, Clint.
I thought we might just get after that first drive. I thought, we might get to get on this post-game show and relax a little bit. It's been a stressful 6 quarters of football since the second half, since the first half against Georgia. And then just from that point forward, both sides of the football, there were inconsistencies. It wasn't great. They're not playing complementary football enough. You did see it at times, but it's hard getting both of these guys on the same page, or both of these teams, offense and defense, on the same page at the same time. Something's got to give as far as the defense, because this feels it feels very 2022 Tennessee. I bring them up a lot, but just think about the defense was terrible. The offense pretty much could score at will. it had some lapses at times, against South Carolina, against Georgia. It wasn't perfect all the time, but really it was a really strong offensive team that was built around that side of the football. And this feels very much like that team where just for one reason or another, there was dudes on that Tennessee defense. There's dudes on this Alabama defense. They should be a better product. But for what, the young secondary, Damani Jackson going down, having a bunch of true freshmen out there seeing significant snaps, that's going to impact things. And it's just something that for now, Alabama's going to probably try to, they got to figure out a way to overcome it. And I think that, you're going to see some of those busts, but I think you got to continue to have an aggressive mentality defensively because you got to compensate for some of that, and you've got to put the quarterback under duress. Don't give plays time to develop. Here's DeBoer.
Take a few questions if you could. Just keep your hands raised, and we'll try to get to most of all these.
All right. Yep. Another game down to the wire. We're kind of getting accustomed to those. I think there's some things that we can certainly do to make sure that doesn't get to that point. But we always talk about finding a way to win. And as many times it maybe looked like we weren't, we did. And the guys, I guess the biggest thing I'm proud of is the response, starting early in the week. Today, there's things I think that happened because of the way they came ready to practice, whether it was just a response Sunday after we got together and kind of talked over the truth of what we had happen a week ago. And then Tuesday, just back to work. So, very, very unified group that understands that there's still so much more we can get better at. I think, we talked a lot about different things that South Carolina would do that would, be tougher matchups for us, areas in the strength of their team that were maybe different than a week ago. And that's the way it's going to be every single week. And so we knew that up front, they were going to be stout, and thought we did a nice job with a balanced attack most of the time. Obviously, when we tried to force the issue and got into some longer situations or tried to press the ball down the field, especially at the end of the first half, that backfired on us. But, defensively, got to the quarterback. We have 3-4 sacks, I think it was, and, three takeaways. And that's, always an emphasis, continues to be an emphasis, and proud of the way the guys came through with those. Three. Did we have 3 or 4? 3. Yeah. I couldn't remember if the interception was the 4th or the 3rd. So just proud of the way the guys fight. The onside kick. We talk about our thought process and being 1-0 and focusing on the next play. And I use it from day one about the ball being a funny shaped object and bouncing. We just need to go grab it. It seems pretty simple, but obviously that didn't happen. So the guys are trying, great effort on it, but found a way, a defense, go out there and attack, be aggressive, and put them in a tough spot there on the last play.
Thanks, Coach. Start in front row on the left, Nick.
Yeah, the touchdown to Jeremy, as far as the decision to call that play when you need the first down, what went into that? And then also, was any thought put into potentially going down and not scoring a touchdown so you could kneel it out there?
Yeah, we knew we had to get the first down, just really with how much time was on the clock. Knew they didn't have the timeout, so there's a risk reward, right, on those calls. We're just right on the edge of what would take to kick a field goal. Field goal makes it a difference, as far as what they got to score. So a lot of components, a lot of things that are involved in what we try to do. And there was a lot of safe avenues and things that we discussed on that play. And I think that they were aggressive in trying to play a lot of those. And, just like a lot of our concepts, there's a deeper route, and love that Jalen saw it, because I think that's a lot of times early in the season. We didn't maybe see those things, but him and understanding the offense, just his familiarity, and then just making the throw, making the catch. And, again, that's finding ways to get it done. So proud of those guys on that execution. Obviously, that was a huge part of the win.
Go to Chase all the way back on the right side there.
Open a drive, 4th and 1 on your own 34. You go for it. You get the 2-yard sneak with Milroe. Were analytics saying to go there, or were you bucking analytics in that situation?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident they were saying to go. So it's always, it pretty much the analytics say any 4th and 1, you should go for it. So, But yeah, we were, and just felt confident with the tempo, and we really haven't done much of that. So even them just seeing what we would line up and how we would run it, the first time, that was something we were pretty confident. We work on it every single week, later part of the week, and I thought the guys did a nice job. A big part, obviously, in getting some momentum. You hate punting on the first drive when it's fourth and one. So great job of the guys executing something we hadn't really done this year.
Front row on the right, Charlie.
Yeah, hey coach, just what went into the decision to kind of wait and call a timeout with 11 seconds there before the half?
Yeah, I mean, I trust our guys, and that one obviously was, the points they got at the end, at the end of the half there hurt us. And, I'm thinking if we can get one play to where we can throw it in the end zone on fourth down and the clock ends with us having the football, I'm all for it, and worst case scenario, you take a sack or something, you have to punt it. I don't like punting, really anytime, but that was to me the worst case scenario. But I guess I'm always just aggressive that way. And you try to weigh the risk reward and put the trust in the guys, things we talk about. That'd be something obviously me and Jay Mill, Coach Sheridan, we'll sit and talk about. And just when we're in that moment and we want to keep the pedal down and try to give ourselves another play, I'm looking for anything. Pass might be defensive pass interference. It could be anything that gives us one more play. We've seen crazier things happen, right? And so that's just the aggressiveness I like to have. Now, we'll talk about the trust, and I think the guys appreciate when you put the trust in, but we have to learn from those things when they do happen, because obviously they got 3 points out of it. It's probably the last thing I was thinking about when it did happen. So,
Steven, second row. Left.
Coach, what does it say about Damani's toughness? Got the injury there earlier in the game, but to come back and had the game sealing pick, just Damani's toughness.
Yeah, it is, and I think he'll be fine. Obviously he was back out there. So the guy wants to go out there. He's had a great season so far. He's someone we got a lot of confidence in, and we wanted to just use him at the right times, the right moments in the second half when those times came up. And, again, finding a way to pull it down and concentrate on the ball. And, kind of most people would look at it as an easy pick, but you got to still be there and you still got to make the play. So definitely proud of the fight that he had and wanting to be back out there, considering he did go down earlier in the game.
Katie, front row right.
You had some penalties today that extended drives for South Carolina, the one that set up the safety for y'all. Just kind of what's it going to take to clean up the penalties?
Yeah. I mean, it's penalties, we're striving for zero, and that's what we're trying to do. And we emphasize it, every situation is a learning one. And we're going to talk about that. Like, we have to read body language of what's happening, I haven't seen it. So, what I say may just be totally not correct, but the understanding is that when he comes across the field, I know what his responsibility is. When he's coming across the field, he doesn't hear a whistle. You just got to kind of at some point have a sense of where what's happening in front of you, and if your guy has slowed down or anything like that, when you hit him. But I know the ball wasn't that deep into the end zone. I thought we might even field it and bring it out. I think it was a late decision on whether we were going to do that and let it go. So, it wasn't something where he's egregiously trying to go out and get a penalty. It's just more of a matter of reading what's happening in front of you and instinctually knowing that the play, is a touchback. And so again, that's something I'm sure I'll see on film and understand, how close was it? I think by the letter of the law, yeah, probably a penalty, right? Ball's touchback and all that. So we can't have it. We can't do it. And, that was one that hurt us because it put us in that situation for the safety. So just those plays kept feeding on each other, the small things, which that's a big thing, but the small things add up, and we find ourselves in a fight till the end.
Coach, what would you attribute the struggles the defense is facing on third down to, and where do you want to see some improvement there?
What were we? 7 for 15. They were 7 for 15. I think they had 5 on one drive, right? 4 or 5, something like that. I remember talking about it on the sideline. And so the rest of the half, 2, right? 2 for rest of the game, 2 for 10. Is that right? I'm just doing rough math. So you can't have 5 of them in a drive, right? And I think there's just just that desire to find a way to make the play. I'll watch the film and we'll all understand what happened on a lot of those. They were in some good situations on some. I remember the ball they caught over the middle was advantageous for us as far as the down and distance. And that's the one where you really got to get off the football field. And those are hard to convert just from an offensive side. And they did. So, a lot of the game, I felt like we were doing a solid job. Can't say we were doing a great job, but that drive certainly coming out in the second half set the tone and made it hard for us the rest of the game. So you got to start a little faster when we come out. We talk about the middle eight going into the locker room, coming out. They got the ball, and then they had those points at the end of the first half. We just got to do a good job of starting fast, in the middle part of the game, and then obviously finishing. I think we did some things on both ends, but we got to do a good job there before going to the locker room, taking that momentum in.
Time for 2 more questions. Let's start on the right. Tony.
Hey, right here, Kalen. It's probably easier said than done in the moment, but had Jeremy gone down at the 1 yard line, the game's over. Do you talk with him about that? And the same kind of thing with maybe Damani at the end of the interception. Do you talk about, hey, just kneel it?
Yeah, we have all those calls in. We practice them every Friday. That was honestly, I'll just say that you try to make them aware that they don't have any timeouts. That's a situation. And so we'll talk about that. Those are things that hit us. The one with Damani, I just talked to him about it, and again, this is where we learn, and what his mindset is I'm going to run out the clock, and so, true. Right. But we all understand all we got to do is go down, take a knee. And so those are just things that we got to continue to learn from. Fortunately, nothing happened at the end there, whether it's an injury or obviously even something else to where there's another play, something freakish happens. So, just continue to coach, continue to teach. You talk about those things and you think that everyone's good. Just take a knee in the end zone, understanding there's no timeouts. We knew that. But then he comes out with that. And that was the last thing I expected him to say, but love the kid, love the play. And, we'll learn from it. So.
Hey, Kalen. You mentioned that 16 play drive, the one with the 5 third down conversions for South Carolina. Do you sense opposing offenses kind of continuing, the long drive narratives, like the ones where it's just, it seems like they're doing everything to keep the ball in hand, 9-minute drives, long scoring drives. Do you see that continue was it similar to what Vanderbilt did to you guys? Do you see a similar approach of opposing offenses?
I think these two offenses we faced are more built to have just drives that continue to have plays stack on top of each other. I know they got the explosive on the 4th down against our coverage with the ball down the sideline, and I think it took the safety out of the picture there. But I think it fit more of them and, the running back, quarterback, guys that just kept moving the chains 3 yards, 4 yards, trying to get in those 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, convert, slants or something like that, just to keep the drive alive. But, I can't say that they are or aren't. But, obviously it's frustrating when they can put 5 third downs together and then, you start wearing on your defense again. They're out there a long time, and the longer the drive happens, the better chance they have of obviously scoring. All right. Thank you. Roll Tide.
All right. There you go. Coach Kalen DeBoer, after Alabama's 27-25 win over South Carolina, Clint Lamb and Mick Gillispie. Clint, we got some phone calls, and guys, I'm going to get to these calls right now. Just hit it real quick. We'll kind of chew on it as we break down this game. But I know you've been holding for a while. So who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Nick, Clint, this is Sam from Alabama, man. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up, Sam from Alabama? Good to hear from you again, man. Give me your breakdown on this game.
Man, last week I didn't eat a damn thing for before the game. This week I did eat something, Nick, but we still struggle. I thought it was gonna make a difference, but it didn't. Look, man, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like. I don't know, just a lot of mistakes, a lot of discipline on the team itself that need to be corrected. They need to. I was disappointed in the right side of our offensive line. I mean, number 77 and the 57 didn't look good at all to me. You got to have some sort of awareness, man, where guys at and move your feet and get your body in between the ball and the receiver, or, you know, the ball and the defender, excuse me. But I don't know. I mean, it was a struggle overall. I didn't think that some of the offensive plays were very good. Miro didn't have his best game, you know, a couple of turnovers here and there. And, you know, the next thing you know, they back in the ball game. So defensively, like I said last week, man, and I went to the scrimmage in the fall, and guys are running wide open. I mean, they play decent, but still, man, we have an issue of getting off the field on important down, 3rd and 4th down. You got to make it very evident that you want to get off the field, so you can get your offense back the ball, so we can have more opportunities at scoring points. I mean, there again, we have another team that we played this year. Every team that we played this year went on like a 10+ drive on us, and I don't think it's going to end, man. I don't like Clint said earlier. We don't tackle very well, and they start us in practice. Mm-hmm. I see some of the clips in practice, and you know, they heads are on the wrong side of the body when they tackling. They don't use your legs. Your legs are your most important part of tackling, man. You know how easily you're gonna drive somebody back if you don't use your legs. You know, so I don't know. I'm gonna go take me a Tylenol PM and take my ass to sleep, man. Cause they didn't want me out today. And look, y'all have a good rest of y'all day. And thank you for taking my call.
Hey, thanks, Sam. You're the second person today to tell me they were going to take a power nap, just trying to deal with this game, right? Clint, your thoughts on that? I see a lot of that too. The guys were getting pushed off the ball. We're getting the catch made, and we can't get the guy to the ground. What's going on?
Nick Saban, he really wanted Alabama to put more of an emphasis on turnovers a couple of years ago. It was a big problem, but you really never, to a massive extent, saw the sound tackling take a hit in order to try to do that. Like, the most important part of everything is to get the guy to the ground, but be able to do it in a way where you're also able to try to, rip the football out if you can. But I feel like now it's such a major emphasis on getting the football out and generating turnovers, and that's great. And I mean, obviously you saw some turnovers today,
right?
But it's not, I think there's some sacrifices being made in order to make that happen. And I think you got to go back to the drawing board as far as making sure guys understand priority numero uno is to get the guy to the ground. It's been way too big of an issue. And, one thing, Mick, I've seen some people say that Damani, if he would have taken the ball out of the end zone, or if he had need the ball in the end zone, that it would have been a safety. So it was smart for him to take it out. I don't think that's the case. I think
if he would have went in on his own, I'll be honest, Clint, I trust these officials zero.
That's fair.
Zero. Get the ball out of the damn end zone so they can't F up the game again.
Well,
this is 15-yard penalty. You're talking about this, like, not this, but like this. This is 2 straight weeks where they've called penalties on pass interferences that would have had us off the field that were bullshit. That's why I know you're right, but I just don't trust these guys.
And here's the thing: it would not have been a safety. It would not have been a safety. Momentum carried him into the end zone.
Right.
I believe the rule states that it goes back to where the interception was initially made, which was on about like the 3 or 2 yard line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think it's a true touchback where it goes to the 20 or 25 or whatever.
No.
But at the same time, that's not a lot of room to kneel down.
Yeah,
so,
right.
and he said that he talked to Damani. I don't know that he still didn't make the correct call. I'm just saying it wouldn't have been a safety. It would not have been, and people were saying leave it up to the refs. The rule there is very clear. I mean, there's no way people will disagree with that, but I mean, I just don't think that's something that they really could have messed up. But it could have been messed up if Alabama gets the ball on like the 2 yard line, the 3 yard line, and you're trying to kneel it just once. I understand Damani. I think he should have went down way before. I think once he started seeing some green grass, he starts thinking, I can pick 6 this.
Yeah.
And then he immediately gets down as soon as, a defender, if you want to call him that at that point after the interception, shows himself. But I just, it was a dangerous way for the game to end. That's for sure.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. And again, as we answer your calls, we appreciate you all calling and holding on. Just make sure you get to the point because you can't hear Clint's response. So you make your point, and then we'll talk and we'll get to the next call. But we appreciate all of you guys. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Nick, this is Kim from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. How are you?
Kim from Philly. What's up?
Well, I just want to make a couple of points. So the good thing is that was a pretty good drive. Milroe to Bernard. I liked it. It didn't take 2 seconds. So I thought that was a good decision. The defense, they still look terrible, but they weren't horrible like they were last week. What I really think hurt us is just like you guys were saying, the penalties. And I think that when you have the penalties, I think that it does more than just, put the other team at an advantage. I think that really kind of takes away the thunder and the tone of the game. I kind of equate it to, like in baseball where, you're not getting the calls and then somebody gets picked off. It like kind of changes the whole vibe. And I think that that's what happened. I think these refs are horrible. And that's that. And then, Womack. I don't know if I have any faith in him. So that's all. I know you want to get to the next caller. So thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Kim, thank you for calling up there in
Great
Philly.
call.
Have a cheesesteak and a lager and roll Tide. Thank you so much. Clint?
I mean, just what I'll say is it's got to be situational awareness from everybody. Like DeBoer's talking about, talking with Bernard. He's 100% correct. If he nails it or takes a knee after he catches that pass, game over, Alabama wins. No need for heart attacks at the end of the game. The Damani Jackson situation, you talk about that. Regardless of how you feel about it, conversation gets had by Kalen DeBoer with Damani. But here's the thing: situational awareness extends to the coaching staff. Like I'm going to tell you right now, when it's right before the half against Wisconsin, you can press because you don't have to worry about Wisconsin's defensive front. They're not very good. They certainly were missing their best defensive lineman. They're not going to be able to generate much pressure. So you can press knowing that they're not going to be able to force your quarterback into making some poor decisions. Against South Carolina with their two defensive ends, and the way that Alabama's tackles, I still say they're not great in pass protection. They're improved, especially Caden Proctor, but they're not just great. That you got to understand with 10 seconds left before the half, you're really what's your like risk reward, what you're risking. And I understand he didn't even think about an interception and then a field goal. I don't know how that doesn't enter your mind because that's all I was thinking about. Is just, hey, I want to see the shot, but with the way, and I even tweeted this, I said I would love to see Alabama take a shot here, but I don't know if I trust it with the way that South Carolina would be able to tee off on it, because that's the one thing you can't have happen. Is give them an opportunity to add points right before the half when they're getting the football to start the second half. You gave them all momentum, and so you've got to be more situationally aware to know your opponent's different. You can do it in certain games. You can't do it in a game like this with the way your offensive line was playing, the way Jalen Milroe wasn't bringing his A game, and the fact that South Carolina can really generate some havoc in the backfield with their pass rush.
All right, back to the phone lines again. Let's talk about this Alabama game, 27-25. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Clint. How you doing? This is Brandon from D.C.
What's up, Brandon from D.C.? How you doing?
Doing well, man. I probably had almost like 4 heart attacks, but, it's the par for the course of being in this new DeBoer era, right? I want to go ahead and just quickly rattle off. I know everyone is railing on the defense and Womack. The scheme today was actually sound, and I think Clint actually nailed the point, right? The guy, LT Overton is a prime example. He is killing the left tackle, right tackle, wherever you're moving him. He's just not finishing plays, right? And that shows you that he has to build in that area of finishing, right? So we're used to having guys that are getting in the backfield. They're there. They're able to get, take the guy down 4 or 5 yards, stop for loss, right? So LT Overton has to be able to grow in that, and a lot of our guys have to grow in that. I felt like the DBs, Zay Mincy's a prime example, right? He got caught looking in the back. He was looking in the flat. That touchdown where it was wide open was him not doing his responsibility. It was actually a good defensive call, right? If he's playing in his deep thirds and he's in the lane, he may even have a pick or Sellers doesn't even throw the ball. So I know people are railing on the defense and the scheme, but the players have to be able to finish and make plays. And so that's one of the things I'm seeing consistently across the board, whether you see Vandy, whether you go back to the second half of the Georgia game, the guys are just not finishing plays, right? Damani Jackson, Nick Saban coaches finish through the ball, right? You've got a big 6'6" Nick Harbor that's going up for a ball. You see the ball, you hit the ball, and then you push them out of bounds. You can do both at the same time. So Damani's going to learn. Damani's been very consistent, in my opinion. And that's just a situational awareness saying, hey, I got the boundary to be able to help me. I can be extra physical here. This guy's a bigger guy. Let me fight through the ball, right? He was pushing the big guy out of bounds. He has him almost damn near 40 pounds. He's not going to push Nick Harbor mid stride, and all of a sudden he's getting the ball and putting the toe tap down. You got to be able to fight through the ball. So that was something I've seen. So a lot of our DBs, a lot of the younger guys, they have to be able to learn how to fight through the ball. Offense, Jalen Milroe was rattled, right? Kennard was killing us, and we did not make offensive adjustments. We should have kept the tight ends in. We should have had more blocking, chipping, and our running back should have been staying in a little bit more, right? You put Jan Miller in there. You have him chipping wherever Kennard is, you chip, right? You saw South Carolina make the adjustment. They started chipping off the defensive end, right? So whenever I see adjustments not being made by DeBoer, I start thinking that he's putting trust in Milroe, just like when Milroe threw the interception at the end of the game. You know that he told him, hey, if it's not there, just run and end the clock and we're good. We're going to the halftime. We're up. He didn't tell him, hey, you might have it 11 seconds left. Just throw it up and just get the first down. I know he didn't tell him that. He didn't coach that. So when you look at some of the inefficiencies by the offense and defense, I know people want to rail on the coaching, but it's because they're trusting the players to do what they've been coached to do, and they're also allowing and affording them an opportunity to make a play. So Jalen Milroe's been in the system for a while. He has to be able to know, and I'm not the system in this game for a while. He has to know that I can't take a sack. I can't throw a pick. If it's not there, get down. That's it, right? And so that's where a lot of times we're growing, and I need Jalen Milroe to grow. You have to be able to have some urgency and an awareness of understanding the time and place to make a big play. And last point, I know I got to go. Ryan Williams has to touch the ball at least 7 times a game. I don't care if he's running reverses. I don't care if you have him just running hitch routes and just seeing what he can do. There was a pass to Bernard in the back of the end zone when they're in the red zone, and he's getting double covered. If you go back and look at the play, Ryan Williams is one-on-one. If he's one-on-one with anybody, you tell 4, I don't care what the play call is, you throw it to 7, right? You're throwing 7. You're throwing it 7. You're throwing it 7. I'm calling it 7 because it's a touchdown, right? We're going to get the extra point. You're throwing it 7. Hollywood Brown is a walking touchdown. I don't care if Bernard is running a great route and you think he's open. You throw it to Hollywood Brown and you let him make a play. And so that's where I need Jalen Milroe to take a step forward. If the coach is calling a certain play, you have the ability to make an adjustment and say, my playmaker is not getting involved in the game. I got to trust that he's going to make a play for me because he's done it consistently over the course of the year. So that's where my frustration comes in. We were trying to get the backs more involved. That's great. Give the ball to Hollywood Brown. He should have no less than 10 targets a game, in my opinion. And I know they're trying to spread the ball around, but Hollywood should always have a touch in at least one part of the series. He has to touch the ball. So, look, Roll Tide, we got the victory. South Carolina's defensive front is one of the top in the SEC. I have a little bit of a sigh of relief, but Tennessee has a good defense, right? They're more balanced on defense, but that defensive front for South Carolina is, to me, the top in the SEC. So I'm going to feel a little better with our tackles heading into next week. We'll have urgency going into Tennessee. I'm feeling good about it. I know a lot of people are nervous, but just, again, stay the course. There are a lot of adjustments we can make, and I've seen growth and sparks in this team. We just can't jump off the ship. So you all do a fantastic job. Continue doing that. But, again, you all the honest brokers. That's why I tune in for you all. I actually withdrew my membership for one of the other programs because I felt like they were just being overly negative but not providing solutions. So you all do a great job of talking about the problems, but you're trying to offer up solutions and have the people to be able to understand why these things happen. And that's why Clint is breaking down film. So continue doing that because it'll teach our fans that they do not know everything and they're just looking at the results, but it's a game within the game. And you have to be able to understand football to know that it's not always on the coach. The coach can put you in the right place at the right time. And if you're going in the wrong gap
that's on you. So, hey, roll tide. You fellas continue marching along, doing the great work and being honest brokers. And again, I'm a huge fan. So roll tide.
All-American caller right there. Roll Tide. Brandon from DC. Love when he calls in. Clint, I do want to get to this super chat, and then I want you to respond to that. Alabama teams used to focus on dominating. I don't see that anywhere. Tide World Order. Is that like the New World Order? Like Hollywood Hogan and Hall and Nash and Macho Man was in there for a while, and Buff Bagwell, Scott Steiner. You know any of those names, Clint? Anyway, you know them all. And ain't the beer cold? Anytime you give my man Chuck Thompson a drop, the Hall of Fame broadcaster, one of my mentors, I love that. So, you know what? I do love Chuck Thompson, and you know, an Orioles drop there too. So obviously a little ain't the beer cold? The beer's cold, but I'll tell you what, it was hot there for a minute, the way that this thing ended. But Brandon dropping some good points, man. Always a great call.
Always a great call. Yeah, I mean, love Brandon, love what he brings to the table, just as far as, you know. And here's, I will say, and I'll have to go back and check. I felt like Alabama was more in like a cover 2. They had the split safety look, and it felt like it was almost like a Tampa 2, because Justin Jefferson turns and runs with the inside vertical on the touchdown that Alabama gave up, and it looked like it was Zay Mincy. I think it was more of Malachi Moore, because I think at that point with the route combination that was run, Justin Jefferson has to pass off the guy that actually ended up scoring the touchdown to Malachi Moore, and he's got to pass off to Justin Jefferson, who's streaking down the middle of the field. That's at least what I thought I saw initially. I'll have to go back and check. But it's just, yeah, it was a good play design, really good play design. And they saw something on tape where, you know, knowing I think Malachi was going to carry his receiver and not come off of him. And I think they exploited that. But, you know, it was a lot of up and down play. There were some really good moments. And the way that Tim Smith brought it, I mean, just, South Carolina's offensive line, and a lot of people understand this, it's not that great, to be honest with you. So a lot of what we saw as far as being able to pressure and stuff, that was expected, in my opinion. The lack of tackling and things like that wasn't expected. I mean, to extent it was expected, because we've seen it, but it's just, it continues to be a major problem. So there's some things that they have to get fixed. And going into Knoxville, you know, an offensive mind like Josh Heupel, he's going to see some things on tape that you're doing, and he's going to really try to exploit it as much as he can. And I will almost guarantee you, though, you're going to see a different look defensively than you saw in this game. As far as, you're not going to see 4-3, 3-4, you know, really it was a 4-3, to be honest, with Justin Jefferson on the field, along with Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson, and you've got both bandits on the field. I mean, just with the way Tennessee likes to spread you out, it's going to be a different look. But I like how they were South Carolina specific. You could tell it was a game plan specifically designed for them. And I think Brandon's right. I think part of it is, you know, the game plan going in. I think, you know, I think that's pretty good, though. For the most part, I think situational awareness, you know, I think they need to continue to work on that. I just think players need to do a better job of executing. And granted, I'm not taking it all off the coaching staff, because the coaching staff is responsible for having those guys ready to execute what they're trying to call on any given Saturday. But I think that is a problem that you've seen, not just with this defense. This defense really maximizes it, but it was a problem under Nick Saban too in recent years. A lot of people blamed it on Pete Golding. You always heard Nick Saban talking about guys got to execute. You know, I mean, like, and it's because in a lot of situations you're putting them in a position. It's just, I don't feel like they did that last week against Vanderbilt at all, and I don't feel like they're doing that consistently enough still. But I did see a step in the right direction on that front. I just hope it continues.
All right, back to the phone lines again, and we appreciate all of you. Get to your point, and then we'll chew on it and get to the next call. Who's this, and where are you calling from? Thanks for calling in, by the way, and holding on for us.
Yeah, this is Don from Kansas City.
What's up, Don? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Well, man, I'm telling you, I'm with you. I'm just concerned. It's hard to believe this team, honestly, is this bad, if you ask me. I don't understand it. I've been on the defense since game one. I just felt there was, you know, I gave them some time for adapting the scheme. But, man, I don't know if DeBoer knew what the SEC was about, and he's learning the hard way. You know, I mean, you can't play like you play here these last couple of weeks, and you can't compete in Baton Rouge, in Knoxville, in Norman, Oklahoma. And this is just not a good football team right now, and nobody has any – they're not going to have any sympathy on you. Alabama has to improve, and I just don't see improvement. I see regression in some ways, and hopefully they can get better, but I don't know. But this could be a long, long season. The games are already long, but the season could be long. So Roll Tide. I just hope they get better quick. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Don. Great call. I agree with Don. I see the team regressing, Clint. I think they were better at the beginning of the year. They were better in the Georgia game. I made excuses for them last week. I was wrong. Hey, Greg McElroy was right. He said, you know what? This isn't a hangover loss to Vandy. Bama just got beat. I said, nope, you're wrong. No, I'm wrong. I see the same crap today. Hey, we're going to get beat up at the line of scrimmage. We're going to miss tackles when we have the opportunity to make plays. And honestly, we got lucky today to win this football game. You and I talked about it. Comment section, I think you guys are kind of getting into this as well. The good news is that, I like hearing Clint, you talk about what's going on. I'm not a football expert. I mean, I just sit here and watch, and I'm like, okay, well, there's another missed opportunity. There's another mistake, and we're just not dominating anymore. And maybe that's what we're looking at right now. But these have been blew a 28-point lead to Georgia in one, lost to Vanderbilt of all things, and then should have lost today. And I mean, I'm thankful that we won, but it was not an easy win against South Carolina. And I mean, when they got to go to Tennessee next week. So I mean, I'll tell you what, this is pretty concerning, man.
One of the things, and I'm sorry, a lot of people probably aren't going to like this because and we knew this was going to happen. It's inevitable. Kalen DeBoer is going to get compared to Nick Saban, fair or unfair. It's always going to happen. But with Nick Saban, because he was so process oriented, I think the focus on the individual process and breaking things, if you focus on climbing Mount Everest, it seems impossible. But if you focus on one step at a time, and you keep just focusing on winning that one step, next thing you know, you've climbed Mount Everest. And so like, that's how, from a mentality standpoint, Nick Saban operated. It was broken down to every single play, winning that play, not the defense winning that play, but you individually. What your responsibility is, you execute it, you do your job, you win. If there's an offensive lineman coming to block you, you get off that block, you make the tackle, you win what you're supposed to do every single play. And if you do that stuff enough, and you focus on it that way, the results take care of themselves. And the fact that Nick Saban had mastered that to the degree that he had, and he could relay that to people and teach them that mindset, at the end of a game, they were just focused. They weren't focused on winning 55-10. And these, they're not focused on beating the mess out of Clemson back in the day or Virginia Tech. They're focused on winning every single play and stacking up enough of those. And you ended up seeing domination in a lot of these football games. I think Alabama right now, whether they admit it or not, is probably a little bit too focused on the results. And I think they got to get back to just doing the little things correctly, winning every single play. And if you can do that, you win quarters, you win halves, you win games, you win seasons. And I think that is the mentality shift that really needs to change.
Well, it could have been worse. I mean, look, we could have lost the football game, but anyway, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's get these phones moving. I know they're all jammed up right now. Who's this and where are you calling from?
What's up, y'all? This is Uncle Charles. How y'all doing, bro?
Uncle Charles, I, first off, am so glad you called because I need your perspective on what I saw today.
Okay. Before I run the phone, I prayed before I came on here because I'm lit. I'm on 100. Let me explain something to you. I'm gonna give you an analogy, a real quick analogy. Somebody tell me how in the world can a man that's completely sober run across the road and get ran over, but a drunk man can weave between the traffic and get to the other side. Maybe we need to talk to that drunk man. because he ain't the one that's ran over. See, there's no way you supposed to have the lead at halftime and you throw the ball or run it. Take a knee, go inside with a 14-9 lead, make adjustments, come back out, and what you're trying to do is, this is the same thing happen. Just Georgia game, the Vanderbilt game, and you're going to lose. I said last week, you cannot bring that Midwest stuff in the SEC and think you're going to win. This is not Washington Huskies. This is the Alabama Crimson Tide. You can't bring that up in here. I'm not going to blame it on the players per se. But the players take on their coach's personality. Nick Saban was a warrior. He was his will. Why is Nick Saban so successful? Because he's one of the men that I know. Forget about him being a coach. His will to succeed is unmatched. And you got to have that same will if you're going to coach the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't told you over and over again. The same thing keeps happening. You take a lead, and what do? You turn Mino Rose into a pocket passer. He is run first quarterback. Then he passed. Somebody said, well, Uncle Charles, you don't know what he's talking about. Let me ask you something. What the name at the Baltimore Ravens? That guy, the quarterback at Baltimore Ravens. What was he first? He was a run first quarterback. But then what did he do? Then when he got Derrick Henry, well, he don't have to do that. And now he got a balanced running game. See, we keep playing games. That's why I said this to DeBoer. I'm telling you, you are the head coach. Do you understand me? When those assistant coaches didn't do what they supposed to do on that sideline, Nick Saban lit them up. You could barbecue. Well, no, take the barbecue off the grill. I get on it. And you be the piece of barbecue I'm going to cook. You could be in the lead. Nick Saban, you could be in the lead. And Nick Saban, you know, he is giving it to a assistant coach over there. That's what you got to do. Listen, you can't be mild-mannered in the SEC. You got to be tough in the SEC. You can't take a team from Birmingham and go to Texas and play one of them teams down in Texas. They play like the pros down there. They play like the pros. I tell people all the time, listen to my analogy. You got a guy that's in Saudi Arabia. He's got an expensive Cheeto, and another guy sitting on the top with him. Well, the guy that's sitting next to him, he want to touch the Cheeto on his face. And the Cheeto slapped him. They said Bruce Lee is dead. No, he ain't. He living in that Cheeto right there because he hit him fast like Bruce Lee. And then he got up there rubbing his face. And then he boxed and he said, wow, meaning I'm going to fry your face like some eggs if you touch me again. I'm a cheater, and I will fry you like some eggs, sunny side up if you touch me again. This is what we need to do. We need to stop. We got a play that we run, and we know it's not a high percentage play. And then look at the result. They did the same thing Georgia did. They did the same thing Vanderbilt did. When they got close to Alabama, they went in there and made adjustments and come back out. And now we behind. Again, this don't happen. 3 times. DeBoer was anything closes. I believe that you're a really good man. I believe you're a great father. I've seen your family. They are beautiful. But I'm going to tell you something. This thing can get separated like church and state. I'm going to tell you right now. This is the SEC, Coach DeBoer. You're going to have to choose some people out. And I mean your head coaches, your players. I don't care if they don't like you. You have, how many players didn't like Nick Saban? But they're successful in the NFL right now, making millions of dollars. And you know what they tell Nick Saban? Thank you, Coach, for teaching me and letting me learn how to be a man and how to go out there and take care of my business. That's what Coach Saban has left behind. And let me tell you something. He taught me something, how to be a better father and a better man. The storm come through Tuscaloosa, and what did Nick Saban do? He put his football team out there to help with the storm victims. This is what I'm talking about. His will is unmatched. And DeBoer, your will going to have to be unmatched. If you think you're going to stay with Alabama, your will going to have to be stronger than what it is. And that's all I got to say. Now, I'm going to go in here and get on my knees and pray because I'm mad. I'm hot as fish grease. And you know how old players do it. We don't wait till the fish cool down. We eat it straight out the grease. And that's all I got to say.
Roll Tide. I love it when he calls. I love it. Did you pick up the references?
Few of them, not all of them.
Like he's as hot as fish grease right now. He's become one of. I'd like to just sit there and watch a game with Uncle Charles. Can you imagine how much fun it would be to watch a game with him. I mean, like that's like watch party material. So get somewhere and just sit next to him and listen to him break down the game. Guys, as you hang out with us, like and subscribe. Please give us a thumbs up as you hang out with us on Cover Crimson. We heard from Coach DeBoer. You know, Clint and I are taking your calls. I know there's some of you that are on hold right now. And I also want to hit the super chat from Brandon. Brandon, I knew what you were saying. You accidentally said Hollywood Brown. You're a Raven. I'm a Raven. I knew what you meant. You meant Hollywood Williams. There's two different Hollywoods. But I knew who you were talking about. Now, you know, Hollywood Brown isn't with the Ravens anymore, but I know him from the Ravens. Hollywood Williams is what you meant. I think all of us on here knew it, but we appreciate the super chat, and we thank you so much for it. And Roll Tide to you, man. Thank you so much. And you do a great job, like Uncle Charles, and all you guys that are calling in. We appreciate you so much. All right, Clint, you know, like the Bruce Lee reference. Basically, what Uncle Charles was saying is Alabama used to be on the attack. They used to be like Bruce Lee. You know, they're going to slice and dice you. They're not trying to play around with you. It's not, hey, I'm going to get the lead, and then I'm going to give you the ball back. They're assassins. And now it feels like, hey, you know what, I'm going to get the lead, and then I'm going to play back, and then I'm going to do this. We saw what they are capable of in the first quarter against Georgia, and they've got to get back to that mentality where they go on the attack, because it hasn't felt like since that quarter, and really the first quarter, the first half of that game, that Alabama's been in that spot.
I think right now, whether it be defensively or really just the team in general, I think they got the yips a little bit, where it's just some things have gone wrong. You almost blew it against Georgia. Everybody was criticizing you for that. I mean, it almost felt like a loss, even though Alabama beat, you know, a top 5 team. And then you go out there and you lose to Vanderbilt, one of the worst losses in program history. And then you come out against a South Carolina team that's just, speaking candidly, they're not very good. They're okay. And they played a really good game, and they believed they could win, and I give them all the credit in the world for that. But when you start talking or comparing them to other SEC teams, they're just not that great. And so, you know, I think at this point, you got a little bit of the yips, and they got to get over some of these mental hurdles. And what I will say about Milroe is that he's very effective, very, very effective as far as running the football. But, you know, you talk about being like a Baltimore Ravens fan and what Lamar Jackson brings to the table. Derrick Henry, you know, adding him to the backfield, now you've got such a threat at the running back position, and you've got such a threat at the quarterback position that it makes their offense really, really difficult to get, really their run game really difficult to contain. And that opens up a lot of possibilities as far as their passing game. Alabama's got the horses, in my opinion, at running back. I don't know what the problem is. I will give them credit. I want to say they averaged, I think, about 10 carries apiece between Jamarian Miller or Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. But, you know, and that's good because they had been pretty much averaging a combined 10 carries. So that's almost double. You like that, but the production's not there. You've got to get those guys going. I feel like the example I always use is, you know, when you've got such a rushing threat at the quarterback position, the first few years that RG3 was in the league, they had a running back to watch. I guess they're the Washington Commanders now. They had a running back by the name of Alfred Morris. And it is amazing. He went from like 1,600 yards his rookie year to 1,200 his second to 1,000 his third. And really after that just fell off a cliff and was never very productive. You look at RG3's starts at Washington, started off with 15, that dropped to 13 his second year, and it dropped to 9. So it fell right along in line with Alfred Morris. What am I saying? When RG3 was on the field, Alfred Morris was more productive because there was such an emphasis on stopping RG3's legs that it presented opportunities for the running backs. I think what they need to do is it needs to be more actual design reads, get the running backs the football, because if they have to, with them, a lot of it looks like reads, but it's really, you know, Milroe keeping it all the way. When you're doing that, defenses start picking up on the tendencies of that, and they know that Jalen Milroe is going to be running the football. So there are opportunities with the running backs, but because it's a design quarterback run and not a read, those opportunities aren't being exploited as much as they could. I think they need to get, you know, back to doing some of that read stuff. I know Jalen Milroe is not super comfortable with it, but he has improved. And when they are running it and doing it effectively, you can get those running backs involved. And now the defense has to respect your running backs and they have to respect your quarterback. Right now, the running backs aren't doing enough. They aren't being productive enough to really be a real threat by the defense.
All right, going back to the phone lines again, and we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us, sticking around. And again, please thumbs up as we hang out with you after Alabama's win. 27-25 doesn't feel like much of a victory party today, though. And I guess just because of the fact that Alabama should be a lot better than South Carolina. But this South Carolina team can be dangerous. We talked about that before, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, gentlemen, it's Ben from Pelham.
Ben, what's up, man? Thanks for calling in. Roll Tide.
Hey, thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so let me just get right into it. I watch a lot of basketball, and with this team, I see a lot of parallels between the first-year Celtics under Joe Mazzulla and even to some degree last year's Bama team under Nate Oates. Lots of talent, but buying into the system is going to take some time, so I'm trying to show some grace, but a win is a win. And the coaching staff learned the hard way, but a win is a win. We'll take it. It's not like this time last week. I think we're really feeling the impact of not having K-Law on the outside. I don't know if we see that in the run game, on top of the fact that Jaden Roberts is probably also injured. And then last point, getting really sick and tired of the roughing the passer calls and the lack of targeting. We had Q Robinson last week, and then again this week. It's Jahad Campbell this week. We're just hardly touching the face mask. Come on. And then the no targetings on Jam Miller and Kobe Prentice. It's frustrating seeing those massive swings. But thanks again, gentlemen. I really appreciate your analysis, and Roll Tide.
Hey, great call, and Roll Tide, man. And you know what? You're exactly right. I just don't trust the officiating. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't understand how you want to the roughing the passer today ruined the whole game. Alabama was on the verge of blowing them out. It was the same thing last week though. And you get the Vandy game. That's not what it was intended for. It wasn't intended for you brush up against somebody and they call a penalty. It was for people that were pushing through somebody's face.
I agree. I think the way the rule is written, I think they're going to call that stuff. I completely agree with everybody. I think if anything, the rule has to be changed. You've got to get, where they actually identify more egregious acts when it comes to that sort of stuff. Because the bottom line is the last two that I've seen called on Alabama, neither one of them were egregious. And it just, you can't do that. And I'll tell you right now, the missing the face mask on the left tackle for South Carolina when they got Q Robinson for it. I'll tell you right now, that wasn't one of those quick got him. That he used his face mask to help block Q. And what's pretty remarkable is that Q still ended up applying pressure and getting the sack. He's playing good football right now, guys. Mm-hmm. And you hate that he accidentally got the face mask and it made such an impact on the outcome of the game. But this guy's playing his tail off, and that's going to happen sometimes. For him, you just got to keep playing football and just you keep doing you. But it's something that I think needs to be addressed because it is causing major momentum swings, and you can't have. I think right now as defenses are way too timid. They have to play timid because there's so many rules that you got to worry about. Imagine grazing a guy's helmet, and it cost you 15 yards for doing that. I'll tell you that with those rules would have been in place when I was playing. I played dumb. I didn't know nothing about CTE or none of that stuff. I put my face mask right in the other guy's face. I don't care. They used to say if you saw little dots or stars after every play that it was like a mini concussion. I was like, dude, I saw that probably like 12 times a game. There's probably a big reason I have some of the issues I do now. But if you would have made me play so timid, having to worry about all these different rules and stuff, it's impacting things. And I'm all for player safety, but it's gone way too far. And for Alabama in particular, you can't be Reuben Foster anymore. You can't. Justin Jefferson tries to be. He's the closest thing I've seen to it, and they're tossing him out of a game, and he's got to miss the first half of the next because he's playing good football.
Right.
Just some of that stuff, man. I don't like it, and I think that's impact. With as much as impacting the game as far as NIL and transfer portal and conference realignment and playoff expansion, the product on the field, man. You got to make sure you can protect guys, but I think they need to correct some of these things because some of the stuff you can tell when it's egregious and when it's not.
All right, back to the phone lines again, and we appreciate all of you guys for hanging on and being part of the show. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, this is Terry from Birmingham. I tell you, man, I'm trying to support Kalen DeBoer, but I heard his little after the game interview on the field with ABC. He said that South Carolina, was a really good team. And I called bullshit on that. What I saw was just like last week, a defense that can't tackle. It's hell for them to get off the field on third down. The offensive line, there's too much rushers coming in on Milrow unstayed. And I tell you, Kalen DeBoer this week. I really hope he teaches his pass rush that if they're fortunate enough to get to the quarterback, if they raise a hand and their pinky touches the quarterback's helmet, they're going to get flagged. I mean, they got to clean this mess up. But it's just so frustrating, man. But I'll let y'all go get to the next call. Thanks.
Hey, Roll Tide, Terry, thank you for the call from Birmingham. And you guys, callers today, you guys have been great. You guys have been quick. You've made good points. I think that we've had some amazing calls. We've had some really good calls, and that's what this show's all about. So thank you guys for doing that and calling in and being part of the show. I guess I'm a little bit more, I feel like I'm a little bit more concerned than you, Clint. I feel like things are not good right now. I feel like
I'm pretty concerned.
You with me on this? I feel like there's definitely water in the boat. We got the bilge pumps on. We're trying to get it out, and I don't know if we're going to be able to plug it up. I talked to my buddy Nate the other day. He said they were bringing a boat back in from Costa Rica, and the propeller came off one of the engines. And the only thing you can do is you have to go. You can't stop, because if you stop, then the boat will sink. So you keep the water out of the boat by going and having the bilge pumps. I said, well, you were probably pretty nervous about that, weren't you? He said, yeah, hell yeah. So I was keeping an eye on that lifeboat. I feel like we're in a similar spot right now. We're still 5-1. We blew it to Vandy. We beat South Carolina. We still beat Georgia. I saw some Georgia fans on the chat. I appreciate all you guys for being on here. But if we play you again, we'll beat you again. That's one guy. I wish we played Georgia every week, Georgia fans. But besides, South Carolina has always given us trouble. I got no idea why. Think about some of the South Carolina games that we've had over the years, but we normally win, but they're tough games. It was another tough game today, but I just don't like the way that this team's playing. I don't feel confident with the defense right now. I don't like the inconsistency with the offensive line. Milrow's got to be able to get rid of the ball faster. I love Milrow, but you got to get rid of the ball. You can't take sacks and safeties. You got to see it coming. I know it's tough, but you got to see it coming. And I'm waiting on the running attack to be able to lean on a defense, and I just don't see that.
I mean, I just don't. It's wild, because as good as we talk about the offensive line playing, they're not getting a consistent enough push. And it's really like the perimeter. Everybody talks about the impact of Kendrick Law as far as what he does out on the perimeter as far as blocking. But I think what his injury has done is you can't lean on the perimeter runs as much as you did when he was available. And that's causing issues because the interior run game has really not been there consistently enough. You've seen some explosive plays, but being able to kind of reel off, multiple runs in a row and really be able to generate some momentum and some kind of make, how do you play this style of football offensively or defensively and make their ass quit? That's kind of the question that I have. You really can't. I mean, they're going to fill in it because you're not physically dominating them with this style of offense. And that's something that, I think Alabama could lean into that more and do that a little bit more offensively. And I think that is, a problem. I do want to remind people, though, and people are going to say it's different, because it is different. It's two very different situations. But I want people to take themselves back to the USF game last year, because you lose in Bryant-Denny Stadium to a way better Texas team, a playoff caliber Texas team than Vanderbilt or South Carolina. So I'm not trying to say, oh, this is, apples to apples, but I want you to remember how much it was like. It felt like the world was coming to an end. Double digits inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama loses. And then the next week, and I understand it's also different because they were doing the experiment with the other quarterbacks. It wasn't Jalen Milroe. That really kind of reset things and helped get them on track. But remember how you felt after that USF game. It's like you were used to Nick Saban teams when they screwed up and they lost a game like they would have last year against Texas. You pitied the next opponent because they were going to catch a beat down. And they showed, and I understand a lot of factors played into that. You saw Nick Saban walking off the field, his hair's all crazy, he's soaking wet. It was a monsoon there for a while, but just back-to-back really poor performances for Alabama in those two games. So even that team last year that really got things corrected, started figuring some things out and made a push for the college football playoff, it wasn't fixed a week after Texas. It took a little bit more time. And so there is still time is my point here. But what I will say is kind of like in that USF game, you felt like after that performance against Texas, they weren't moving in the right direction. It was worse in week 3 than it was in week 2. It's feeling that way right now. It was worse this week, in my opinion, in a lot of ways than it was last week.
Right.
So, that is something they still have time to correct it, and they can. But, just like you're going to have felt after the USF game, you don't feel very good right now, and it's completely understandable.
I'm just wondering, when is this team going to grow? When are we going to see this team improve? Under Nick Saban, you would see a bad performance, and then all of a sudden that would turn into a better performance. I don't feel like I saw anything different than what we saw last week. We just didn't throw in a pick 6, and we didn't have a strip sack fumble. If they would have gotten the early lead, who knows who would have won? But we got the early lead. We had the 14-point lead early. We were at home. Won by 2. Could have won by 1. Had we not gone into the end zone, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. The bottom line is this, is that when Nick Saban was head coach, the team got better. And I'm just waiting on that now. I'm waiting on seeing the growth with this team. And it feels like we were better at the beginning of the season than we are now, or maybe we're about the same to me.
Well, what it is, Nick Saban was always steps ahead. I think one of the biggest issues is how much emphasis has there been on the improvement. Like you see the issues against USF in week 2, right? And even though that was a win, like it's 14-13 in the fourth quarter. So you've had that game, you had the second half blowout against Georgia, you had the loss to Vanderbilt, and you had the near loss to South Carolina. But what Nick Saban would do is even though they were winning football games and they were cutting it close, he would be really his coaching staff, and then really that was spearheaded by him. You would see such an emphasis on the things that they weren't doing well, where it would kind of get fixed without you having to really suffer from it for a long time. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like they're waiting until they really get exploited by it before they go and try to fix it. Like I did see more of an effort to get the run game going in this game, and now I think people might be understanding a little bit more. South Carolina's good defensively, good run defense. Think they were number 30 in the country coming into this game, so not elite, but they were really good. I think a lot of people see today, okay, maybe this is why they're not leaning on that run game a little bit more, because it hadn't been very efficient. Now, there was one drive where you saw Jam, Justice, and Jalen all get involved, have success running the football. It was that long touchdown drive. And you can see what it can look like, but they've got to bring it together as far as a consistency standpoint, because you're not seeing that nearly enough.
Back to the phone lines again. Let's get to your point, and then we'll chew on it. And again, thank you all who have called and talked to us today on the show. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hey, Mick, it's Adam calling from Georgia. How's it going?
Adam, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
All right, great to talk to you. I'll be really brief. I'm happy that we won today, but I'm going to say something that might be unpopular. I am going to be very happy when this senior class is gone. That includes Malachi, Booker, even Milroe. They do a lot of interviews. They talk a lot, but this team looked terrible today. And Womack does not have this team ready on defense. And I don't think we're going to win with DeBoer's relaxed culture, these seniors, and this defense. I'm looking forward to a new beginning for Alabama starting next year. Thanks for taking my call, Mick.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I don't know.
That's going to happen, Mick. You know, the whole interviews and stuff, when it's not Booker and it's not Malachi and it's the next group up. You know, it's NIL. You know, guys are going to be doing interviews. You know, if Auburn fans could say the same thing about Peyton Thorne, but you know, guess what? If it's not Peyton Thorne, it's somebody else. So that's just something you got to learn to live with. Now you can make the criticisms for other stuff if you want to, but I just don't think that should be the approach, because it's not like Alabama next year is not going to have several key high-profile players getting paid to do NIL stuff. Like that is part of it, and maybe it should just be pay for play. Like we shouldn't just front it with this NIL stuff like they try to do. You know, in some of these situations. I mean, it's just that's part of it. It's the era we're in now with college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're going to talk. I mean, I'm definitely. I like some of that stuff. I love listening to Booker on the Next Round.
Yeah,
our
I love
sister station. I mean, I think he does a really good job, but I mean, it's not like he's out there getting beat like a drum. And I think Milroe's a really good player and a good guy. You know, Malachi, I mean, I met him at the mullet toss. I mean, I like him. I didn't like the way that he acted last week, and I didn't like the message that it sent that he didn't really get punished, at least maybe that we know of. But at the same time, I mean, without him today, well, maybe we lose the game. You know, it was pretty scary when Damani Jackson went out, and I was glad that he came back in. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see the culture at Alabama change. That's the thing that I worry about. I want to always have the team that when they score a touchdown, they hand the ball to the official. You know, I've heard, I talked to former players who were like, we're down against Vandy, and these guys are doing like designed choreographed touchdown celebrations.
Do you remember when the players did the horns down after the game again, when they went to Texas, went to Austin and beat Texas, and Nick Saban saw, and he lost his, even after the game, even after it's all over and you've won, just there's no such thing as doing. And I'm not saying that nobody ever talked trash or ever, I mean, Jermaine Burton. I mean, I think that was probably one of the most like laid back approaches Nick Saban ever took with a player while he was at Alabama. And there were a couple of more. He's not the only one, but just what they kind of let him get by with compared to others, I always thought was kind of crazy. And I think that Nick Saban started changing. I think it's a different era of college football. Like I said, these guys want to have fun. They can go a lot of different places and have fun. They're more short-term thinking. You know, it's not just about making it to the NFL, because if you can hand me a bunch of money now, then I don't have to really work as hard. And if I don't make it to the NFL, like a lot of guys don't, then, you know, I still am set up, you know, really good as far as my future. If you're one of those rare players that gets paid in the millions, but and some of these kids that even get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, when it's compared to what maybe they've grown up with, that is their millions, you know? So it's just, like I said, I mean, there's a lot that you got to deal with in college football now, and you've got to learn to manage that. But what I will say is just the approach that Nick Saban took compared to Kalen DeBoer, whether Kalen DeBoer's approach or method can work, it's still going to be a major transition. Imagine being a player and you go from you see your head coach lose it on a couple of guys for doing the horns down to, you know, you can get by with some trash talking, and then you start figuring out, okay, what can I get by with?
Right.
You know, what is acceptable? And then you get something like Malachi, you know, last week where his emotions are high, he runs with it because he thinks, you know, that under Nick Saban, I wouldn't have done this, but with Kalen DeBoer, I don't know if this is acceptable or not. And then you find out that it's not, and you over time that transition will happen, and that kind of stuff will get better. But the problem is, I mean, as unfortunate as it is, this is not Nick Saban's culture. It can still be a really good culture in that locker room and in that program, but there's a transition happening that's going to take everybody a little while to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think there's going to be some growing pains through that.
Well, Saban was on his way out the door. I mean, let's be honest. You know, like he was setting himself up to leave. He was doing $1 million media deals with national media brands, and the you know, the attention to detail wasn't there last year. They had a snapper that couldn't snap the ball, and they didn't get it figured out the entire season. I mean, so, you know, that tells you it was time to go. And he's still the greatest of all time, and we love him, but it was just time. I mean, Father Time is undefeated. So Saban won a bunch of games, but he didn't beat Father Time, right? And so, and then now you're you're trying to get this next coach in, and we have pretty high standards at Alabama. And one of those standards is the way that you represent that uniform that you wear. And it's not just me saying that as an alumni, but we've had former players say that won national championships, guys that played in the NFL, that don't mean any disrespect, and they're not trying to put anybody down. And it's not what Damian Harris said about Malachi Moore wasn't, he even said it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but man, and the reason I'm bringing that up is that that's the leadership of the team. Now, all of a sudden you go into another game and what's the example that you're going to have set for the younger players to come up and follow? I had a person today send me a text and say, hey, are we the new Miami? And I mean, if you guys remember, Miami was pretty good at smack talk. I don't know the answer. I think DeBoer's a great coach. I think things are going to work out. There's definitely a lot more leeway when it comes to the players and what the standard that they're going to have to follow. But then things are getting tough, man. I mean, I'm just telling you right now, when you barely beat South Carolina, watching us try to field that onside kick, that's the worst I've ever seen on an onside kick. It was clownish. It looked like a bunch of kids in the backyard. The attention to detail's got to be there, Clint.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, one thing I'll say, I don't think going to try to get Nick Saban, the next Nick Saban, as far as his approach, would have been the correct way to go about it. I think change definitely needed to be made, because if you're trying to get the next Nick, like, it would have been very hard. But a guy like Steve Sarkisian and the way that he's built Texas, what I want you to remember back to, think about where they're at now. Number 1 team in the country, went to the college football playoff last year, played, as far as came close to getting to a national championship game. But a few years ago, they had such a culture problem that Bo Davis, the former Alabama defensive line coach that was at Texas, now he's at LSU. This is his first year at LSU. But players were laughing after another just devastating loss where they got trampled by like Kansas or somebody not very good. And Bo Davis ripped everybody a new one.
I remember that.
And he said, get out. And someone filmed it or recorded it. And it kind of started making the rants. And he's like, get the F out. We don't want you here if you're going to be that way. But look at where their culture is right now. And I think that's a huge reason. He's a good defensive line coach. Very good. Don't get me wrong. But I think that was a major reason why Brian Kelly went after him to bring him to LSU, is because he wants that culture instilled in his defense. And guys like Bo Davis, and just the way that like, it's like, I don't care. You can be a star player. If you're going to have that mentality, we don't want you. We don't need you. Get out. And look at where they're at now. One of the best programs. I think their culture has been set up for long-term success. And I think that really, really matters. Alabama, Kalen DeBoer does not have to be that guy necessarily, but he's got to get some of those guys. I love the coaching staff. They're all fun. I think the players love them. They love playing for them, but you got to have some hard asses, and I don't think Alabama quite has enough of them right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's my point. And I'm not saying change. You just articulated my point exactly. A coach like DeBoer needs the older players to set the standard, because he's not going to come in there and scream and yell at people and all of that stuff. But somebody's got to be the one that holds people accountable. And for Saban, on his best teams, it was the upperclassmen that held people accountable. The fact that you wore that uniform and you wore it a certain way and you did things a certain way because that's the way that Alabama does it. How about Bo Scarborough last year? Like, watching him on his show, and he's talking about at the beginning of the year, you need to listen to this man. And I know Bo's voice does make me laugh, but I love him, man. And I love the point he was making, so, and he was right. And then this year, having guys like Damian Harris and Mike Johnson say the same thing. It's not that they are trying to put down Malachi. It's just, they're saying, hey, to keep the tradition going, what made it a dynasty and what made it so good is that the upperclassmen, they were part of the process. And you talked about that rant. I think that's the one that Ryan Anderson sent me, and he sent that. We when it came out, and it's like, hey man, and here's a guy who went through everything, but it was the guys like the dealing with Saban, learning from Saban, taking your lumps, having a high standard, eventually getting there, and then having a great career and a great life, and getting to play in the NFL. And he's been in the studio. He's talked about it a lot. He's a friend, and I appreciate hearing that, because he said, hey, there was times along the way where I might have transferred, but my mom made me stay, and it was hard to transfer. And look at him now. I mean, he's a great business guy, and he's a great person. On top of that he's a national champion. So I hope that we don't get away from that. I hope that DeBoer is able to corral that aspect of this job. And I don't know if he is. Adam, thank you for the super chat. He's just talking about pretty much the same thing. He says, I'm right. This relaxed culture will be a disaster, and it won't teach these kids the lessons that they need to succeed in life. I'm not going to agree that I'm ready for, Milroe and Booker and those guys to be gone, but I get your point. I think that these guys can beat anybody. I saw them beat Georgia. I saw them play the best quarter of football that I've seen Alabama play ever. And if they can get back to doing those things right, that this team could win it all. I still think they can win it all. But if they lost 5 games now, it wouldn't surprise me, Clint. I don't really know what to expect going from game to game anymore. That's the thing that worries me the most, is the inconsistency and the fact that I don't even know what this team does well anymore. Like, what do they rely on? What did Coach Saban's teams always do, Clint? They stopped the run. And then everything else kind of came from stopping the run. Started with the line of scrimmage. We're going to win. You're not running on us, so you better throw on us. We're going to tackle. We're going to do all these other things. But even up until last year, they stopped the run on the defensive side of the football. What does this team do well?
Well, I mean, and I don't really know how else you want me to go about this. I'm really not a focus on the problem. I'm focused on the solutions. I want to understand why things are going on, because if we just sit here and complain and talk about everything that's going wrong, Milroe sucks, or, Womack sucks, he needs to be fired. What does that do? I mean, I understand that, do we all feel better from going on rants and stuff? Sure. And I'll do that. But I also want to understand, hey, why is some of this stuff happening or potentially happening? And maybe what are some of the things they can do to get it corrected? Is Kalen DeBoer going to watch this show and be like, oh man, Clint Lamb made a great point. We need to change this. And Clint Lamb's the one that fixes the Alabama program. No, that's never going to happen. But from a fan's perspective, collectively, when you start trying to focus and explain what's going on or what could be going on and some things that can fix it, if everybody starts echoing the same thing, everybody pressured Kalen DeBoer into not wearing a t-shirt today. I'll tell you that. So, I mean,
he had the hoodie on.
Which I think he was going to do that anyways. I'm kind of kidding, but I don't know that he's going to wear a t-shirt moving forward. Just because of how much criticism he got. And that was very universal. We heard it from a lot of different people. So my point is, I mean, you can sit here and say, oh, I'm just trying to explain things. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I want people to understand what could be going on behind the scenes and how they fix it. I don't see any reason to go about it any other way, unless y'all just want to get us to get on here and just complain nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I hear you, man. And I think that's important too, is coming up with them figuring out how they're going to fix this. And they've got a tough game next week against Tennessee. And the Tennessee beat Saban there last time, and they made Christmas ornaments with the score, and they had T-shirts printed, and they had billboards made and posters, and I mean it was like I was like a national holiday in Tennessee. So we haven't had much success in the volunteer state here lately.
Well, I will say, he asked what my solution is. My solution for Adam is the same as yours. I think that there's obstacles, and Nick Saban understood that. He got in a room with players after last season, and they were asking for more money. They were asking for more playing time, and he's like, this game's passed me by. Kalen DeBoer is dealing with the exact same things. Nick Saban decided this game ain't for me because I don't think I can do anything with this. This is a problem that I can't tackle or don't want to tackle.
Right.
It's not the way he wanted to operate his program, and it was such a big part of it. Kalen DeBoer's got to figure out how to navigate that too. And so, what I'm saying is that the discipline and stuff have to return. I'm just telling you what obstacles are with that. The NIL area, you want guys not to do podcasts or social media or anything like that. That's never going to happen. Not to the extent that you want it, unless you're just saying, hey, you can do all these different things or you don't have to do anything and we'll just hand you money. But a lot of times how these guys get that NIL money is they got to exchange something. They got to do a commercial. They got to do an interview, whatever. So, I mean, that's NIL is a huge part of this. That's just the bottom line. I think you got to try to figure out how you manage some of that, though. And I think that is something that Kalen DeBoer is going to need to do, as he continues to get more comfortable in these new, his new settings, new environment.
Well, it's a 27-25 win. Clint, let's take a look at the numbers before we get off here today and just kind of crunch those a little bit. Milroe was 16-23, 209 yards. He had 2 interceptions today. I thought this was one of his worst games passing the ball. He did have a touchdown. He was able to run the ball 18 times for 36 yards. That wasn't really there for him, although he had a couple of runs that scored touchdowns. And that's one of the things that I love about him is you get in the red zone and he is really tough to defend because he's able to run the football. Jeremy Bernard had his best game, man. 4 catches, 89 yards and a touchdown. Cole Adams had a couple of catches, 57 yards. It was a quiet game for Ryan Williams, 4 catches, 32 yards. And I got to be honest, every time he's catching the ball over the middle, I'm worried, right? I don't want to see him get hurt. Justice Haynes, Jam Miller had a couple catches. Josh Cuevas had a catch. CJ Dupree had a couple of catches, but negative yards on there. For South Carolina, Sellers, 23 of 31 passing, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT at the end of the game. Sanders also ran the ball, 16 carries for 19 yards. Now, you got to know it's more than that, but they subtract the sack yardage. And on defense, Keon Sabb had 12 tackles, 7 solos. Deontay Lawson, 9 and 4. And then Lawson, Campbell, Jefferson, Mbakwe, Latham all had tackles for loss in the game. And Campbell and Latham and Tim Smith had sacks for Alabama. Robinson and company helped Alabama to a 27-25 win in this game. Now we'll do our game balls here in a second. Let me just throw the team stats up one time again, just in case you missed it. Bama was better in third down efficiency than they were on defense last week, right? So it was 7 of 15, but 5 of those came in one drive for South Carolina. Coach DeBoer spoke about that in the post-game press conference. They also finally stopped somebody on 4th down. They were 1 for 2. Bama was 5 for 11 third, which I didn't think was a great game for them. 1 for 1 and 4th down. South Carolina outgained Alabama 374-313. They outpassed Bama 242-209. They outran Bama 132-104. And the penalties, 7 for 66 for Alabama. We talked about, and you guys I know or feel like I do with some of these roughing the passer calls or brushed face masks, pretty bull crap. South Carolina, 6 of 49 penalty wise. And then the time of possession was almost even, 31-40 for South Carolina, 28-20 for Alabama. And a win is a win, I guess. And I'd feel a lot different if it was a loss. But I guess the concern, Clint, is there. But statistically, South Carolina slightly better, but Alabama won the game.
Yeah, I mean, time of possession favored South Carolina again. It definitely wasn't a 42-18 split. No. So I guess that's a major improvement. It was pretty even. But, being on the road in Tuscaloosa, I just the fact that opponents right now can dictate the game and they can control the game with the clock, it's a major concern. And, Kalen DeBoer is correct. A lot of the third down conversions did come on one drive. And I would say outside of that, they did pretty well for the most part as far as getting off the field. But you can't have that drive, you can't have, that was the start of the third quarter and they waste, close to 9 minutes, run 9 minutes the clock and are able to, do what they did. You can't have that. That can't be the way that second half is where you really make your adjustments. and you really set the momentum to how things are going to be carried out for the rest of the game. And if you can do that correctly, i.e. Georgia a couple of weeks ago, you can overcome major obstacles, as in being down 30-7. And so like just the fact that they came out and it was just South Carolina was able to dictate everything to start the second half, that is a big problem. You've got to figure out a way to fix that. If you can't, then you're going to have a lot more of these issues down the road.
Games in the SEC, the other final besides Bama's 27-25 win over South Carolina, Missouri thumped UMass 45-3. That wasn't much of a game. And then in progress right now, the Red River rivalry, don't call it a shootout. Late in the second quarter, it's 14-3 Texas over Oklahoma through one quarter in Athens, 10-3 Georgia over Mississippi State. Later tonight, Tennessee hosts Florida. That's at 6 o'clock, 6:30. Ole Miss versus LSU, 6:45 Vanderbilt at Kentucky. So those are three games that I'm really interested in. And then other games of interest, as they say, top 25 matchups. Number 4 Penn State trailing USC 17-6 in the second quarter. Halftime, Notre Dame, who's number 11, 21-7 over Stanford. And I think that later tonight, Ohio State at Oregon. So we got a lot of good watching. I'll tell you that right now. We got a lot of good. This is a great day to have the 11 o'clock game because we're about to be off of work, and that means we get to watch a lot of football. All right. Alabama did win the game, so let's go ahead and give out our game balls. You guys get in the comments section, and you give your game balls out as well. Clint, we'll start on offense.
No, I'm going to start on special teams, and I'm going to say James freaking Burnham. that cat, man.
Game ball.
Hey, that's right. He's a weapon. He really is, man. The way he can flip the field, that 59-yard punt was absolutely huge. You got to give this guy props. We forget about special teams way too much. When you've got a guy like James Burnham back there just booting it, man. And South Carolina's got a good punter too. He did some good things. I think he averaged about 45 yards a punt, but James Burnham averaged close to 48. With a longer 59-3 down inside the 20-yard line, and then he had 2 50-yard plus punts. The cat can boom it, and that's a major weapon. I wanted to make sure I gave him props today.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm with you on that. And he's the best punter we've had since J.K. Scott. I mean, he really is a weapon, and it's not
Might
just
be better.
He punts it far, but he punts it high too. And how about the one you mentioned, the roughing the passer or roughing the kicker one? And that extended a drive for us, or maybe helped out Alabama, but Burnham definitely deserves, and he'll get honored, I'm sure, by the team as well. All right, now offense. Who's your offense? This is a tough one, right?
Well, I really like the way Jeremy Bernard played today. I think he's doing really good things. I think he's got a good feel. And here's the thing. When they're doing with some of the things that they were doing to try to take Ryan Williams away, I agree with Brandon. I think that you need to manufacture a lot of touches for him pretty much each and every week, but on a day like today, with him kind of being limited as far as how much he was able to produce, make those game-changing plays. If you're not getting what you got out of Jeremy Bernard, where would this offense have been? You might have been dealing with a loss. So Bernard being an excellent kind of, I would still say he's probably the number 2 in the way that they're viewed, but I don't know that you'll find too many better number 2s with the way Jeremy Bernard's playing right now. So a lot of props to him.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, I'm not trying to echo you because, I would love to have a difference of opinion, but I thought this was his best game. I like what he can do, where he's a guy in the slot and you can use him there, or he can go across the middle, or you can put him in the backfield. He's versatile. Bama needs somebody to step up with Prentice and Law, injured. You want to have somebody else, because I don't want Ryan Williams going across the middle. I just don't. Look, and I agree with what Brandon said. Ryan Williams needs to touch the ball 7 times. They just need to figure it out. But if that means him going across the middle and taking hits, I see his head flying around in that helmet, and I'm always like, it looks like a bobblehead. I'm like, no, I don't need that guy getting hurt. Okay. So Bernard's experienced. He's tough. He can make plays. Let him get the ball across the middle. The other guys need to do a better job of getting open, or getting more comfortable with Milroe. But some other guys need to step up. And when Milroe's doing his thing, when he's playing his best, he really spreads the football out to a bunch of different guys. I didn't feel like that was the case as much today as it was like in the Georgia game, for example. I think we need to get back to that. I'm still a big believer in Milroe, but this was offensive line could have done better. Running backs could have done better. Quarterback could have done better. Bernard was definitely the guy who I felt like deserved the game ball on the offensive side of things. And then the other part too is give him credit because I thought Jam Miller had a good game too. And one of the plays that sticks out to me is when he was in that run pass option and got clobbered, but Milroe ran right past him and down the field and it set up a touchdown for Alabama. But I still don't think we're getting the most out of our running backs. And I would love to see those guys start to play the way that I think they can. That just hasn't been there yet. And that's a tough job because part of that is the offensive line blocking. So, all right, defense. What's that?
Well, I will say, as far as like Ryan Williams, we got to remember how close was he to connecting with Milroe on that vertical pass. If Milroe just need to get just a hair more air under it and let Williams run underneath it. But if that happens, we're talking about Ryan Williams probably having a similar stat line to some of the things that we've seen in every other game. It was just a very slight miss. I agree, and I've already agreed with Brandon that they need to manufacture more touches for him. But, the Milroe stat line looks a little different. Ryan Williams stat line looks a little different. I think this was needed for the offensive line. They had not really been challenged. Georgia has a good defensive front, but we talk about their pass rush. It is limited. The way they attack you, they do that two-gapping stuff. South Carolina gets after you, man. And I really think that they needed to be tested. Milroe needed to see some of this, be under duress like he was. You find a way to win. It was an ugly win. You can't justify a lot of what happened. But I'll say, as far as, identifying some of your problems with your offensive line, it kind of in some ways or in some areas got exposed. I think it was that could be beneficial moving forward, depending on how they attack some of these things. As far as defense, I liked the way, even though we got the face mask penalty, I liked the way that Q Robinson played. I think Justin Jefferson, even though there was one where, Lenore Sellers got him pretty good out there on the perimeter, I think he's playing pretty good football overall right now. I think Jalen Mbakwe made some really good plays. I really like him for being a freshman.
Coming, baby. He's
coming. He's doing some really good things. So it's like, I don't know that there's like one guy that like stands out, but I did see some things I liked from some guys, different guys on that side of the football. If LT Overton can ever start finishing some of these damn plays, I'm telling you, this guy is wreaking havoc on offensive lines. He's just got to finish. Against George, it was the fourth down stop that he missed. It was, last week it was, Pavia ended up spinning out of a play and ended up making a throw down the field. This week, you saw it again. Finish some of these plays, man. You're doing a great job as far as just destroying offensive linemen, moving all around, doing a lot of different things, but you got to finish. So props for dominating the offensive line, but he's not going to be one of my players of the game because he couldn't finish.
I'm going to say Keon Sabb. Look, the statistics are there. 12 tackles, 7 solos. I haven't gone back and watched every single play, and you'll do that on covercrimson.com. So you guys can count on that if you're members. And if you're not, now's the time to join. It's $1. You can join for $1 at covercrimson.com and be a part of that. Or you can, kick up the annual membership and get the Cover Crimson t-shirt. But Clint will break every single play down. He'll be watching every snap of the football game and logging that in there and giving us his assessment of that. But just initially looking at it, I can remember a lot of the tackles that he made. And, in a game like this, making plays, sometimes that's good for your safety to be up there. Caleb Downs certainly was a guy that was able to make a lot of tackles in big games from that spot. But
Tim Smith too. I don't know why I forgot him. Yeah. He brought it. This was probably as much as I've seen him bring it. And like I said, South Carolina's offensive line is not great, but that is one guy, man. He wreaks some havoc on the interior for sure.
And if we would have had the push that we had this week, last week, we'd have won the game.
No doubt.
Yeah. I thought the defense, they just need to make tackles. And it's hard to do that when you got somebody that's so athletic and can move around as much as Sellers can. But at the same time, they were back there a lot. I never felt like, okay, we're not getting a push. I mean, there was a few times where they held them, but I thought Alabama's defense up front was a much better, all in all, than they were last week. All right, what do you got going on? CoverCrimson.com.
Yeah, snap count observations again. I thought that was a lot of interesting takeaways last week against Vanderbilt. I guarantee you there are going to be just as many, if not more, takeaways from this game. Some blown opportunities, some gifts by South Carolina that really helped. I mean, this is just not a pretty performance. So I'm curious to see what they did as far as changing some things up, how certain guys, responded. So definitely going to be doing the defense first as always, and I'll be following it up with the offense. I'm going to try to get it out a day sooner this week. I did it on Tuesday and Wednesday this past week, and I'm going to try to do it Monday and Tuesday. Had a lot of other stuff come up. So I'll be doing that. And then it's Tennessee week and just what they've been doing. There's going to be a lot to analyze and look at as far as matchups and things like that. We're going to be talking about a lot of that here on the YouTube channel, but we're going to be having a lot of those discussions over at covercrimson.com. So if you haven't already, go sign up and join in the conversation.
Be back tomorrow with our Sunday show. So make sure that you catch us again here. We'll have a night to just reflect on this thing and get back at it. But you're right. It's Tennessee week. This is a big week, third Saturday in October. And I'll be watching closely when they play Florida tonight and then Tuscaloosa. We're going to be in Knoxville next week. So, appreciate that. And thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. Great job, Clint. Great job, callers.
Phenomenal.
At the end of the day, it matters that you win. It really does. And that's what you go out there and you get a win. This week, I'm going to be watching and seeing if Kalen DeBoer is able to turn the corner with this team. Or is this what we got? Is this what's going to be? Close games every week? I hope not. I mean,
I can't handle it. I really can't.
Crazy. Hitting that attention to detail. But Roll Tide, guys, hey, give us a thumbs up, please. That's a way of saying Roll Tide. We appreciate you guys being on and hanging out with us. And I'm glad that Shula didn't beat us today. That would have been terrible. Unlike when he was head coach. Unlike when he was head coach, you would have lost like that. This is typical Shula football. Close, but no cigar. South Carolina.
I hope there's a cigar next week.
I may smoke one.
We're going to smoke one on the show. I want to tell you, if Alabama can figure out a way to get a win, we're smoking on this show.
Yeah, we will. Come on. You know that. All right, Roll Tide, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you again soon. Tomorrow at that.